everyone? Welcome to Strictly Hockey. I am Jacob Brown, joined here with Steve Cashin and Adam Kupferman. Today, I know it's been a while, but we're going to go over the playoffs from the last pod that we did about 2-ish weeks ago until now, and we're just going to go over it and start now. So first, we're going to take a look into the North Division, which this division, we've all three of us here, and when CJ was on with us too, we were all wrong. And I think everyone who analyzes hockey was completely wrong about this division. What we all knew from the start is that this division can't compete. No, I shouldn't say that. I think not one team from the whole division could go up against any team from any of the other divisions and win. Let's just be honest. I think Toronto, now that they've lost in the playoffs consecutively over all these years, they can't beat anyone else. Winnipeg, they obviously already lost. Edmonton already lost. Montreal, they're not going in and beating Colorado or Vegas next round. They wouldn't beat Tampa or any team from the Central or any of these experienced teams out in the Eastern Division. So this Canadian division, the North Division, already going in was weak. And now the two powerhouses, Toronto and Edmonton, they're out and around. And what was it, both one round? Or Winnipeg was 2 rounds, and then Edmonton was a round. That's embarrassing. And Toronto as well, out. So these are powerhouses with superstar talent. Toronto, Austin Matthews, Marner, Tavares, although he got injured, he was still there, though, okay? Nylander. You look at the Edmonton Oilers, obviously, McDavid and Draisaitl. These are teams that should be winning in the playoffs, and they're just not. And now you got to take a look at yourself, especially if you're Toronto, and say, we've put it all out on the table, and we're still not winning. Edmonton, we have the best player on the face of the earth. Nothing's working out. What do you do if you're these two franchises? We'll start with Steve.
With in regards to, are we talking about Edmonton and Toronto?
Yeah.
I mean, I think, I don't know. It's two of the franchises are completely different in the scope of what they need and where they want to be. Toronto has been on the doorstep for years now. Game 7s, look at 2013, up 4-1 against Boston the first round. You somehow choke that and you lose 5-4. You were dominating that whole game. You look at a few years ago, again, Game 7 against Boston. It's a 1-1 game. You end up losing 3-1. Look at this year, even you get back into the dance, and you're up 3-1. And I think this is the worst out of all the cases. You can look back last year. Yeah, you lost to Columbus in the play-in qualifying round. It was what it was, but this year was just, it's unexcusable. I mean, you're up 3-1. I get there's no home crowd, but you can't seem to close the door. Up 3-1. That's, to me, is the biggest choke job I've seen in a while. And in regards to a team hasn't got out of the first round. So that, to me, they're just a mess culturally wise with that whole franchise. They need everything from the ownership to the GM. They got a bunch of superstars that don't want to do the dirty work. And that's what I see from Toronto. They've had good goaltending, good enough goaltending to win that round. The superstars didn't show up. Marner took more penalties over the glass than he scored goals. Matthews, nowhere to be seen. Nylander, nowhere to be found. I mean, it was just the third, fourth line guys for Toronto doing the work. And when that's the case, you're not going to go very far in the playoffs. So, and then you look at Edmonton, it's goaltending. It's goaltending and secondary scoring. If you shut down McDavid and Draisaitl, it's pretty, your work's cut out for you. And Mike Smith's not the answer in between the pipes. So for Edmonton, I think they got to go looking at a goaltender. We've beat it to death. How many times that Edmonton could have gone out and got a goaltender in the offseason, didn't do it. Could have gotten secondary scoring, didn't get it. So two teams that are on completely different paths. I think Edmonton's been there. They're not close. Haven't really been close. Toronto's been on the fringe of moving on, but just can't seem to get over the hump. They might be cursed, but that's where the state of those two organizations are right now. But it's not going to get any better in the near future if moves aren't made soon. So,
yeah, they're just. I mean, Toronto's too top heavy. You're paying $40 million to your top 4 guys, and they don't do anything for you. I think Joe Thornton had as many goals as Marner and Matthews combined in the series. And just stupid shit like that should not happen from guys you're paying $8 million plus to. It's just that's unacceptable to happen. Toronto, Like I said, they've always been top heavy. Really haven't gone out and gotten that big defenseman. They tried with Tyson Berry last year, didn't pan out. Jake Muzzin, I mean, yeah, he's a solid defenseman, but he's not a top 2 guy. Morgan Riley, he's not a top 2 guy, I don't think. I don't think he should be, going up against the McDavids or apparently the fucking Tyler Toffoli's. Like, didn't work. Toronto's got to go out. They need a defenseman. They need to ship out a contract. Probably Nylander because he performed well in the playoffs, so he's going to have high value. So I would think Nylander gets the gate. Maybe Marner, but he hasn't put up numbers in the playoffs. So I think that lowers his value, even though regular season numbers are good. Toronto needs a defenseman. They need that top guy defenseman to munch minutes, go out against the top team and shut them down. Edmonton, I agree with you, Steve. They need a goaltender, but it's a goaltender isn't going to steal you a Stanley Cup. He can steal you a series. In Carey Price's case, he can steal you 2, but they cannot steal him a goaltender. They need that secondary scoring, like you said. They could probably go out and get a defenseman, but I think if Tyson Berry can replicate his season, if they can re-sign him, Oscar Klefbom comes back next year after missing the entire year with injury this year. I think that's a big boost to Edmonton's core. I think Edmonton could get away with a solid goaltender. I think they could be a good contender next year. Winnipeg, they also need defense. I think who's their number 1? Jacob Trouba?
No, Trouba's with the Rangers, but I think
that's what I meant.
Neil Pionk.
That's what I meant. Yeah,
well, and they have Morrissey too, and he's good.
Yeah, like their offense is good. Scheifele going down for 4 games. That suspension was too much in my opinion, but I think that really hurt Winnipeg. Connor Hellebuyck, he's fine. He can steal you a series if he needs to. But yeah, I think they can improve their defense. I think all the Canadian teams are so top heavy that they just all need defense. So my advice to them is 2 words: Seth Jones.
Yeah.
One of these Canadian teams with cap space needs to give him the bank. They need to haul in trucks for him and just say, take what you want and come play for us.
No, it's totally true. And whether it's the big defenseman or whatever else, all these teams, like you guys have been saying, they kind of have the same core issues in a way, with the top heavy aspect especially. And I think it's proving itself. How do you win Stanley Cups? And look at the Blackhawks. Right when they gave Taves and Kane these big contracts that took up a big portion of the cap, that's when their run started to end. And so the only team that I've ever been able to see win with cores of players and big cap numbers for long periods of time are the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Tampa Bay Lightning. Every other team, when they have to pay their guys the big bucks, they collapse or rebuild or trade away guys. It happens to everybody. And not many teams are able to overcome that. And I think you're especially seeing it with rosters like the Montreal Canadiens, rosters like the New York Islanders, rosters like the Boston Bruins. What do those teams have in common, especially with Boston and the Islanders? Those 2 teams are not top heavy offensively at all. But what do they have? They are incredibly strong defensively, and especially they are physical teams. The Islanders specialize in this. They manhandled Boston in their last home game. They beat them on the road because of it, because the Islanders can out physical Boston. Boston, we went over it. I was surprised for a few weeks there. How are they advancing when you have a first line and Taylor Hall, and then other than that, nobody even had 10 goals or 7 or 8 goals on their entire roster other than that? But then you sit there and you're like, wait a second. They're structured, they're physical, they're experienced, and all they need is that top line to produce, because they know they can get everything else that they need within a hockey game taken care of through Tuukka Rask, through coaching, and through defensive structure and physicality. Toronto doesn't have that. You don't go up against that defense, like you said, Adam, like, oh, Morgan Riley's coming down. He's gonna line me up right now. Morgan Riley ain't gonna line you up. That's not happening. Tyson Berry is a finesse defenseman. He's not gonna line you up, right? So these teams, they all have the same issue. Neil Pionk, he's a tiny-ish guy, especially for hockey terms. He ain't gonna scare you, right? But on Boston, Charlie McAvoy, he can move the puck. He's got a huge slap shot, and he can fucking hit you over the boards. You look at the Islanders; they have 3-4 guys like that on their back line. So that's what these teams need to look for. Not, hey, I'm Toronto. I've got Austin Matthews and John Tavares, might be the best center pairing in the league outside of McDavid, Draisaitl, and Crosby Malkin. You don't need to do that. You can pay less and have a better totality roster than anything. And I hate drawing it back to the Rangers as always, but it's a quick point. This is what the Rangers lost from. superstar, top heavy. Other than that, you can't have finesse lines in your bottom six. So it's the same points around the entire league of what it is. And I think Montreal really benefited. They brought in an Eric Stahl, 6'4", experienced vet, Josh Anderson in free agency, Corey Perry in free agency. All of these guys have these characteristics. Edmondson and Gustafsson at the trade deadline on the back line. Edmondson especially, he's 6'4", 227. That's what you're adding. And then you add in Carey Price, which, by the way, I got to eat crow here. I was dissing Carey Price regular season. He's back to Carey Price. He turns it on playoff time. Can't diss the guy anymore. I don't care what he does in the regular seasons. He produces in the playoffs. So I think it really is that bottom line. What are the three elements of a winning playoff team? Coaching, defense, physicality, and goaltending, right? And that's it. And that's what Edmonton and Winnipeg and Toronto lack.
Yeah, I mean, all those teams, they're not physical. You looked at the Canadian division all year. I still think Montreal is going to get slapped in the next round. Could be wrong. It goes hand in hand. I mean, you get this far now, and you put it together a few good games, and now you're in the thick of things. I'm not going to write Montreal out, but I really think when you look at the rest of the teams left in the playoffs, like Boston, New York, Tampa just moved on. Drawing a blank on the other side. I think that's
Vegas and Colorado.
Vegas and Colorado. So all these teams have been playing just high pace hockey, hitting everything that moves. Just it's a different game. I turned on the Winnipeg game the other night. I watched every single game, and it's just like it's boring. It's not as physical as the other series. Part of it's the when you get the crowd involved, more hits are thrown. The bodies are going everywhere. So I look at the Canadian division as a whole, and they all play the similar style. They all go, all right, we're going to skate around. Yeah, we'll get physical every now and then, but we're going to play our game, just maneuver our way around the physicality part. And that's why those teams aren't successful. And in a normal season, you get a Toronto or you get a Montreal that sneaks in like this year, and they all ultimately get beat round one because they get outmanned, they get outgunned in front of the net. They go to the dirty areas and they play physical. And now they've coasted to this next round. And I think Montreal, if they can somehow figure out a way to take their game to the next level and weather the storm of going to the next building, they have a chance. But when you look at the reality, we can fantasize all we want all day. But I really think of Vegas and Colorado is just going to bully them. And I think it's 4 or 5.
It's 4, dude.
But it's just the Canadian does not compare to what everyone else is playing with. And Carey Price, hats off to him. Nice 2 rounds, but those teams don't shoot the puck a whole lot. Winnipeg had 13 shots in a regulation the other night going into overtime, and they scored 2 goals. 13 shots. I mean, if any goalie in the league should make 13 out of 13 stops from not danger zone. So I don't know. I'll give them credit for where credit's due. They're in the final. I guess semifinals now. Sounds
whatever
so
they're
dumb,
calling it. Yeah.
Hey, credit to them. They did their job, and now they wait to see who they get in the next round.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think Montreal gets manhandled by either Colorado or Vegas, but I'll let you go, Adam.
No, I think Montreal got such a boost from having fans in the building that they've just rode that wave. I think, you go 18 months without having fans, and all of a sudden you get fans back in the building cheering you on. I think that gives you a big boost. And I think they just kind of rode that momentum through the Montreal series because they got to that game 6. They announced it for one game 5, got to that game 6, had fans, rode that wave through it. Same thing against Winnipeg. I think they're boosted by their fan base. And now my question for Montreal is whoever they're going to face, their building's at least 50%. Colorado's at, I think, 60% right now, and Vegas is at 100%. How are they going to react when they haven't played a game in 18 months in front of a packed house, and then all of a sudden you have to deal with going into another team's environment who you haven't seen all year, and you're going to have to go into their barn with their fans in a packed house? I think that's where Montreal is going to get beat. I think they can, riding that hot wave, I think they can go toe-to-toe with either team, but I think having the fans in the building is going to create such a culture shock to them I think that's going to be a big difference. I think they can hang around with these teams. I could be wrong. We haven't seen them play each other. We have no clue what we're going to walk into here, but I think they can hang around with the best, but I still think, whoever ends up winning this series between Colorado and Vegas takes care of Montreal in no more than 6.
Yeah.
And you got to look at it. Like, you got to look at it too. Like, I was thinking about it the other day. It's like, okay, look, if let's say you're Vegas and you move on, let's say you win at home and you close it out. Now you're going to play in front of your home crowd for the first 2 games. Let's say you take care of business there. It's 2-0. Now you go to Montreal. You're going basically back into the bubble. It's quiet, nothing, no noise necessarily. And it's like a free skate. And for a team that skilled, whether it's Colorado or Vegas, when it's quiet like that, there's no outside distraction, no one yelling at you. And it's like you're playing in silence. It's like a practice. And I think with that skilled team, like whoever comes out of that West is just going to have a field day on the road. I just don't think there's any pressure. That's Marchand, who I hate, said it perfectly the other day. He goes, that's what makes playoff hockey. It's going into a full capacity crowd on the road. And it adds that element to where it kind of not phases the players, but you're like, oh shit, like it's loud. You can't hear your line mates. It's just another element to deal with. And I think whoever comes out of the West has a huge advantage in going into a stadium that's going to be significantly less than what they played in the first 2 rounds. So we'll see. It's all speculation, but on paper right now, I just think it's a clear advantage to the West.
No, I'm with you. I mean, I've said it twice now. I mean, I think it's 4-0. I mean, no disrespect to Montreal. It's just in any other division, they're not even close to making the playoffs. Their entire division is mediocre at best. And, I mean, they struggled. It's just, what do they have over Vegas? There's nothing that they have that's better than what Vegas has. There's nothing that they have that's better than what Colorado has. But we could shift to that series now. And I was just watching that game last night. Listen, Colorado should have won that game all day. I'm sorry. From the second that I turned that game on, it was like mid-second period when I got home last night. Colorado was in their zone, offensive zone almost the entire night. I mean, they were scoring chance after scoring chance, moving the puck in their zone. I mean, they were getting shots on net. Fleury was standing on his head, though, but they couldn't pot that extra goal and get that extra goal. But this has been the problem with this Avalanche franchise, and we've been talking about it with the Canadian teams like Toronto, who year after year, they go to the dance and they lose. We keep saying, if Colorado can't do it this year, what the hell else do you have to give this group of guys? Because you're at a loss at this point. They have a better team than Vegas, and they are not showing it because they've never been clutch enough to win series and to capitalize on moments. They had every opportunity to win that game last night. What does Vegas do? They get a breakaway, boom, OT over. It was like quick. OT was on. I was like, man, I want to go to bed, but I really like playoff hockey. Hope this doesn't go too long. 5 minutes later, game over. And I'm sitting there like, wow, man, like Colorado might be done. This is brutal.
50 seconds. 50 seconds in the OT.
That's what it was. Yeah. So I'm like, this is brutal, man. Like, how does Colorado not take care of it? You're at home getting shot after shot after shot after shot, and you don't put it in. I'm sorry. It's all on them if they lose this series.
Yeah. I mean, you look at it, that last night's game was very similar to game 3. I mean, the roles reversed. You're over in Vegas, but Colorado dominated that game 3. They were forechecking. They were in the zone, just relentless on the forecheck in the corners, just going and going and going, just wave after wave. And it seemed like, all right, Vegas just can't keep up with the speed and the physicality of Colorado right now. And then, sure enough, late in that game, Colorado melts down, and Vegas scores 2 goals in 40 seconds. And boom, all of a sudden, Colorado's like, oh shit, now we have to go back to our barn. I think it was 2. That was 2-1. I made the series 2-1, excuse me. And then Vegas dominates game 4. And now look, all of a sudden, it's 2-2 going back to Colorado. Now you lose that game that you dominated last night. Just 2 absolutely, in my opinion, demoralizing losses.
Yep.
I mean, you have to just move on and just go get the next one. But we're looking at an Avalanche team now that's going to be 3 years in a row. If they push this to 7, 3 years in a row now where they're going to have to face game 7 in the first 2 rounds of the Stanley Cup playoffs. And it's a team that's been on edge. They last year had the Game 7 lead against the Dallas Stars. The year before, they lost to the Sharks, I think it was. They lost to San
God,
Jose.
so
I think they lost to San Jose or somebody in the first or second round. But just a team that what else do you need?
wait,
They've had
hold on. Was it
chances.
St. Louis that year? No, the year they won the cup, I don't know. But yeah, keep
I'll
going.
look it up. I'll
Yeah.
double check. But nevertheless, it's a team that's been right on the edge, the doorstep of going to that next level where they want to be. But they've had ample opportunities, like you said, Jacob. Like last night, it's 2-0. You're dominating. The crowd's behind you. You need one more to put them away. They're not. Vegas ain't coming back from 3-0. They got the next one, made it 2-1. They're like, wow, we have belief, we have life. Got the equalizer, and then they were running from there. So I don't know. There's not much else you can say in that locker room besides let's just move on and go get the next one, because they have all the talent in the world to get it done. And I think all the praise and the talk has kind of not gotten to them, but it's been like, oh, this is the team that's going to do it. They're so dominant, but they're beatable. Vegas has figured it out. Let's chip in charge. Let's get everything to the net, and we're going to find a way to win. And that's been the formula the last 3 games to get them back on top of the series. So Colorado just needs to move on and adjust, and all you can do now is win the next one and hopefully get back to your own barn for Game 7.
Yeah, and before you go, Adam, and you brought it up a few times, Steve, is you mentioned the waves of Colorado, of their forechecking. It's relentless. They don't stop, man. They smother you, and so I almost feel like, and I didn't play, so this is something that's more for you guys. But when you're always going 150% effort wise, you're always in on the forecheck, you're always right there on every puck. Does it mean, Vegas is just waiting for that one chink in the armor, that one open space to where they're like, well, something's got to go wrong because they can't be this relentless the whole game and then just get that one extra opportunity? Or is it just, Colorado tries their hardest and they still don't win? Or because I think personally it's got to have something to do with Colorado's going 150% the whole time, shot after shot. On defense, they're blocking shots. They're there with the forecheck. They're in on every puck. And then they miss one chance, and it's that one chance, and Vegas is like, oh, my God, we got to capitalize, and they do it. Whereas Colorado, they have so many chances that it's like, oh, we'll get one eventually. We're playing harder. So do you guys think it has something to do with that?
I mean, it's one of those things where, I don't know, it's kind of hard to describe. I mean, Colorado is just relentless. That's their style of play. Their coaches instilled, hey, we're going to keep forechecking. We're going to keep forechecking. They're going to have to stop us eventually. But I think you look at the other side, you got to give credit to Vegas, the poise and the leadership on that side. Mark Stone, you have Marc-Andre Fleury between the net. Peter DeBoer, the coach.
Pietrangelo.
Pietrangelo won a cup. I mean, DeBoer, the head coach, he's been there. He's was with the Sharks forever and was like, and he knows these moments. He knows how to pounce back in a series. And he's telling them, hey, things aren't going our way right now, but if we get that one bounce and we just push back one time, we got them right where we want them. And that's what's happened in this series. They go, hey, we might be getting outplayed, but in the playoffs, you could look like world beaters all you want all game. But if it's until you bury that team and get that 3-4 goal lead, the team has belief. And I look at the same way with Carolina. They thought that they could relent, they could keep going. Push. We got a 2-goal lead, but the Lightning responded. It's the same thing with Vegas right now. They're poised. They have veterans in that locker room. They know what to do in these types of moments, and they go, "Hey, Colorado can do whatever they want on their side, but we're going to stick to our game plan, and we're going to let it unfold." And that's what I noticed, especially last night. It was 2-0. Things were not going their way. Early third period, they strike, and they go, "Wow, we have 17 minutes to go get the next one," and they did. So I really have been very impressed by Vegas, what they've been able to do after getting their face kicked in the first 2 games and just staying the course throughout this 7-game series. So hats off to Vegas, but it's a long way from over. If they don't shut it down on tomorrow night, Thursday night,
tomorrow,
I think they're in trouble. Then you give Colorado everything they need in 7.
I mean, Vegas has had such good poise. I mean, that's a great point, Steve. Mark Stone, the leadership he brings to the table, especially now wearing that C, I think that pushes him to be more of a leader in the locker room. And I think it shows. I think all the guys rally around him. I think him scoring an overtime goal is going to be such a huge momentum boost heading into Game 7 especially because you're going into your own barn. The leader of your team just scored a goal. You overcame a 2-0 deficit in the third. I think all of these factors are really helping in Vegas' favor. And you look at Colorado's side, you say, hey, we had a 2-0 lead in the third period on our home ice and we blew it. Like, I think that kind of hurts Colorado a little bit. But as far as the Avalanche go, I mean, what more do you need? I mean, Nathan McKinnon's making $5 million a year. You go out, you get Brandon Saad, who's got 7-8 goals in the playoffs this year. You go out, you trade for Devon Tays, who's a promising rookie. You get him for like a 4th-round pick. All of these guys who are producing and they still can't figure out a way. I mean, Philip Grubauer, he's a fine goalie. It's not goaltending, it's not offense, it's not defense. It could just straight and simple be that they're playing a better team than them. And I don't know what else they need. I don't know what else they could do. It blows my mind that this team can't get past the hump, and
yeah.
I don't get it. As far as Vegas goes, the poise they're showing, down 2-0 in the third, you get a big goal in the opening minute. They scored it minute 3 in. Tuck gets that goal off a rebound, and you go, all right, game on. We've got 18 minutes left to go pot the second goal, and they end up getting that 3 minutes later. So I think they're just resilient. They don't give up. That overtime winner is huge. But the playoffs that Marc-Andre Fleury is having blows my mind.
Yeah.
I mean, here's a guy who we were talking about in the offseason who was a trade candidate. They wanted Fleury out of town. And now here he is. He wins the first round for you, sits game 1, they get shat on. Goes back to him in game 2, lose in overtime. And now you come out, you win 3 straight with Fleury. This guy is playing unreal. And he's not carrying Vegas by any means, but he is giving them a fighting chance every night. And that's all you need from your starting.
Well, what he does really well is he takes momentum away in a second, because when Colorado has all these major chances on these breakaways and the crowd's getting hyped up and everyone's like, oh, and then he gets the save, it kills the Avalanche every time. And it happened literally 3-4 times last night. So many flurries in front of the net for Colorado, right in front of him. He's stopping all these multiple saves on single shifts, and it just takes the air out of the room. So while he may be giving up sometimes 3-4 goals, he still makes the saves at the right moments. And so he's a Hall of Famer. We always knew that. But what's crazy to me is, I mean, goaltending depth isn't that deep in the NHL, but I had Robin Lehner as my number 5 goalie going into the year, and he ain't even the starter. So it just tells you how amazing Fleury's been, and respect to him.
Yeah, I mean, he's played, especially last night. There was times where we talked about Colorado getting the next goal, but I just think they were just up against a goalie that was just playing out of his mind. I mean, there was times last night where they were buzzing. I think they got the second goal, and they got it back in their side of the ice and just buzzing, like shot after shot, and it just wouldn't go in. And there was times where he saved the game for Vegas, and being down 2 goals, that next one goes in, I think it's over. But he made the saves to keep him in that game and go, hey, just get us the next goal. And he kept his team in it, and he has done it the whole series that he's been in. And I think if he plays game 1, who knows? It's all hindsight, but this series could be over. I mean, look at it. If he plays game 1, they lose. All right, maybe come out, have a better performance in game 2. Because I think you throw them into game 2, they just got their face kicked in. And now they're kind of playing on their heels going, all right, we got to play conservative here. Got to play a close game. We can't get blown out again. You lose 3-2 in overtime. So who knows? This series could have gone 5 and Vegas could have just swept the floor with them. But I think they're in a great spot. Fleury's he's like Crosby. He's like an ageless wonder, man. Like, he just seems like he gets better as time goes on, and he hasn't missed a beat. And yeah, he gives up some softies every now and then. I think the first goal last night was just such a fluke. Yeah, he just goes and he misses it on the fly, but hey, it happens. But nevertheless, he's got his team right on the doorstep of going to the final, or the Final Four, I should say. God, I mean, what could you ask for? Keep him in net, and if they win this series and Leonard starts game 1 of the next series, we got some problems, got some issues.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about your guys' series now, the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Carolina Hurricanes. This was literally, I mean, listen, we didn't do a pod before the series, but I was not scared for the Lightning whatsoever going into this series. I wasn't scared for them whatsoever going into the Florida series. This is a team that should beat other teams. It's simple. They're the defending Cup champion. They have virtually the same roster, if not better, this year than they did last year. They should be winning, and that's what they're doing. And did I expect them to beat Carolina in 5 games? No. But they did, and that makes them even more of a wagon than I originally thought that they were. Listen, it's painful for me to say this stuff. I don't want the Lightning to be this good, but it's just true. They are this good. I've said it a billion times. Best left side of the defense in the league, best goalie in the league, arguably out of the teams left. They have the best superstar talent left. This is a team that at this point, especially if Colorado doesn't make it, I think the Lightning are favored for the Cup once again. And to be quite honest with you, I'm just going to be honest. I didn't watch a single game of your guys' series. I really didn't. I was that confident the Lightning would go away. I'd check my phone every hour or two for the score and be like, I wasn't worried. And I'm sure as you guys, as fans, you felt the same way too.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was more nervous about the Panthers than anything, just because their style of play, the way they kind of not handled us all year, but they in-state rival. I don't think Vasi plays particularly well against the Panthers. Didn't do it all year, except for maybe 1 or 2 games where he looked all right. Maybe he might figure out this team finally, but the Panthers are a team that forechecks hard. They throw everything at the net. So every time they have the puck in their presence, if you feel like they have a chance to score, and that's how I felt in that series. Why they were so dangerous. It was scrappy. The fights after every whistle. Lightning were taking way too many penalties, and then you look at this series. I was more confident. I was like, all right, this Carolina team, not very physical. They don't get into many scrums. They don't care about the bullshit. They just go and play their game. And I think the Lightning were very content with that, going, hey, we just got out of a bloodbath series. Now we kind of can skate freely. Yeah, it might be a 1-goal game every night, but at least we don't have to worry about them taking one of our guys to the box and there's more open ice. So first 2 games were close, both 1-goal games. I think both ended up being 2-1. You look at the composure and the experience of the Lightning. It showed in the series. You lose the only game they lost. I was at that game. That's pain, but you lose the only game in overtime 3-2, and you came back and you clawed back, and really that series could have been a sweep 4-0. So I look at this. The Lightning didn't look phased. They were like, all right, Carolina, you want to sit back and play that 1-goal game? We'll do it. They tried opening it up in game 3, and I think they figured out that couldn't quite help them either, because
Tampa was like, hey, we've done this dance before, except with Columbus.
Exactly. Like, hey, you want to play tight? We'll do it. But if you want to open it up, we'll play up and down the ice with you, and we'll play a 6-4 game. So hats off to them. Vasi looked great. That's 3 straight shutouts in a series clinching game. Fourth line, amazing last night. Tyler Johnson looked like 2015 Tyler Johnson when he was picking apart New York Rangers, the Red Wings, and the Blackhawks. Yeah. But they look good. Hats off. Long way to go. Only halfway there. But hey, they beat the bunch of jerks over there in Carolina.
Yeah, Adam's holding back laughing because for the last 6 years, he has not let go that the Lightning beat the Rangers in the Eastern Conference Final. I haven't forgotten either. Don't worry. But, okay, yeah, Tampa breezed by. Good series for them. But, yeah, let's move on to this Islanders and Bruins series. Oh, wait, shit, Adam, I didn't even let you talk about your own fucking team.
You're like, what the hell?
Yeah,
I was going to let it go, but I was like, shit, I would like to talk about the Lightning for a second.
Yeah, goddamn, you got the hat on? Yeah, go ahead.
Dude. Gotta rep it. Look, there's 2 things that are so evident to me from watching this team over the last 2 years, and it's composure and it's defensive play. A couple of years ago, they would have never won a 2-1 hockey game in the playoffs in someone else's barn, and they've done it twice, right? I don't think that happened a couple of years ago. I think they tried to beat teams 5-4, 6-8, whatever it is. That was their style of play. Let's run a team out of the building, and I think the composure, the way they're playing defensively, they're so locked down defensively. They get that first goal, they're shutting you down. Carolina scored that first goal in game 1 on the power play early in the third. They didn't, they kept their composure, stuck to the game plan, got that week 1 by Nedeljkovic, still goals a goal, ended up holding on for that game. Game 2, go up 2-0, lock it down, don't let them breathe hope. I think that's such a big part for this team and why they've been so successful here over the last, what is it now, 6 rounds. Um, and just composure. They don't get scared when they go down 2. They were down 4-2 to Carolina, who's supposed to be one of the better defensive teams in the league, and ended up scoring 4 unanswered. That's a big plus. And I'm looking at some of these players too: Kucherov, Sergachev, who's got a short temper for whatever reason, Chernak. All these guys who have short tempers, they're not taking bad penalties. They're not taking retaliatory penalties. And I think that's a big thing, is that if you can keep your head clear and just focus on your game, you're going to have a lot of success in the playoffs, because you're spending more time on the power play than the kill, or you're spending less time on 4-on-4. A lot of 4-on-4 in the Panthers series, and I think that kind of sped up the game and that fit more their style of play, but I think they're a lot more comfortable on the power play. I mean, shit, I looked it up here. They're at 41.7% on the power play. The fact that Carolina and Florida didn't figure it out to keep these guys off the power play blows my mind. Now, the thing I'm scared of is that they're relying too much on it. They're just, I mean, I think if you play a team like the Islanders, who are so defensively minded, they're not going to take bad penalties. So now it's on the Lightning to beat them.
At the same time, yeah, I get what you're saying. At the same time, though, but when you have all that talent, like, as much as you can say, because I was listening to NBC and Anson Carter was like, as much as you want to say stay out of the box, don't take penalties, but when you have Kucherov, Points, Stamkos, those guys coming at you in waves, it's like Colorado. They get a lot of penalties for them because they're coming in waves, and you're like, how do I stop them? And when you're pushing forward and you're going forward, not backing up, other teams take penalties because they're getting tired, you get lazy, you're out of position. So I think you're right in the fact that you play an Islanders team that, hey, they sit back a little bit more. You don't have as much pace. They might take less penalties, but I think it's just the nature of the game. It just naturally happens. And, we'll see who comes out of that side. But I 100% get what you're saying. It's just, I think with the talent on that team, it's hard not to take penalties in certain times of the game. But you might not get it as many to the extent Carolina did, but we'll see. I think teams do have to stay disciplined if they want to beat the Lightning, because that unit is unreal right now.
Yeah, I mean, 41% is a number you just don't hear. I mean, that's just, you get 5 power plays a game, you're going to score on 2 of them. I mean, that's insane. So it's a great number for the Lightning to be at, obviously. But I have a little feeling, you guys have never said it, but do you guys feel almost as if, as fans, you want a non-bubble cup win as well? Is that something that, and it's maybe even to the team as well, to prove, hey, it wasn't just the bubble, everyone. We're getting it the real way too.
I don't think it's necessarily a point of needing to prove that it's not a bubble cup. I think it's more of just me personally wanting to experience it. I'm stuck in the house trying to celebrate a cup here. No, I want to go to a packed Raymond James. 70,000 people packed in Raymond James celebrating a cup. I want to hear Drunk Pat Maroon Part 3. The bubble cup, you can have your debate. I still think it's a real thing.
It is a real thing. Yeah.
If they win this year, you can throw out, oh, well, they played less games, whatever. Selfishly, I want more people in attendance, and I just want more cups.
Yeah, I was thinking about the other day. It's like, people will always have their envisions with, hey, like, for example, people were talking about the NBA, and I think it's 2 completely different sports and 2 different auras here. And you look at LeBron, and his team got ousted in the first round, and then you look at the Heat, they got beat, and then you go, oh, that bubble ring, maybe it doesn't count, which I completely think it doesn't count. NBA is shit. But you look at the NHL, a completely different sport. I don't know. I don't think there's anything to prove. I think it was one of the hardest cups to win, just because the amount of teams that were there, and just everyone was on a level playing field. But I kind of want it. Yeah, it's like Adam said, for kind of personal satisfaction. Like, hey, like, I want to see it full capacity. Like, you win it, and like the city's going crazy. Like, yeah, we partied and everything when they won it, but I think you kind of want the reassurance of, okay, we got 1, but let's show everyone that we can win 2 just as easy, or just back and reassure everyone that this team, it wasn't a fluke. So it goes both ways. The debate would go on forever. There's always going to be people that aren't fans of the team are going to say it wasn't real, but I think anyone that's a hockey fan knows that how hard just as how hard it was to win. And on that same note, it's like, all right, let's say people, I want to say it's fake. If their team won that cup last year in the bubble, they would be celebrating just as hard and just as much if they won it. And that's what's so crazy. And people go, oh, bubble cup. It's like, it's just as hard to win no matter what. So, yeah, I mean, I want that second one badly. And, think about it, only 8 wins. You need 8 more. So you're only halfway there, and it's been a grind so far. So we'll see.
I've been thinking too, like, what teams, you look back in NHL history, and it's like, what team won the decade? And you go back to last decade, and the Blackhawks had 3 cups. The Penguins had 3 cups. The Kings had 2. For the Lightning to really solidify themselves history-wise, get that second cup so that you're remembered in history. Because you get that 1 cup, it's great, obviously, for your franchise. But for this team to be remembered, when you get to that 2, the third, and so on and so forth, that's when it's like, okay, we really capitalized on this group, because this group of players, they're not going to have this roster ever again. They're going to have the core, but the depth and the they're 17 over the cap right now. Someone's got to go. This is the best they're going to have for maybe ever. So if the Lightning, and we always said, you got to get that 1 cup, got to get that 1 cup. At this point, it's like, you got to get that 2 cups, maybe even third, to say this is a dynasty, because this roster with the talent that they have should be remembered and needs to have the results of a dynasty.
Yeah, I mean, you look at, this is now with the win last night. I'm gonna double check here, but this is the 5th time in 7 years they've been in the final. I mean, let that sink in. I mean, that's crazy when you look at it as a fan. That's great. You've been to the cup, not the cup final, but the conference final. You've been the last 4 teams how many times now in 7 years? 5 out of 7. That's pretty unreal. But to only look at what you did with that, you've made it to the cup final twice in that 7-year span. You won it once. You went 1 for 2. It's crazy. I mean, not many teams can say they've made it to the conference final 5 times. I mean, not many teams have been there, had the opportunity to go to the cup, be 4 wins away to getting there. So it's an amazing feat, but I completely agree with you, Jacob. It's to be remembered as the team that can get there and be remembered with the Blackhawks and the Kings and those teams that put together some great runs in 3-4 years. I think it's getting that second cup with that same core group of guys, and you want it to do that because it's a lasting legacy, and it's so hard to do, especially in this era of the salary cap and not being able to retain guys, and like you said, teams can only stay together for so long, and when you start winning and guys grow and like the points of the world, they move on, they go to different places, they go get that money because it's well deserved. So I think this is their opportunity to go crack one and get another. And like I said, after winning it last year, maybe the lid's off. Maybe they're going, hey, we've been there, we've done that now. Now we have the utmost confidence to go and just show people that we can win it with ease. And not to say it's going to be easy, but they had the mentality that, hey, we can go get another one. And their minds seem to be set on that right now, and they look like they're on a mission for sure.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. This is just being completely candid. They're going to get through either the Islanders or the Bruins. They're going to, especially if it's Boston. They're going to get through Boston. They've done it like twice already. So they did it last year too. But they're going to get, and I'm thinking, probably Vegas is going to end up winning that series. If it's Vegas-Tampa, Tampa's got to win that matchup, man. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I like Vegas, respect for beating Colorado, but yeah, you would hope, Steve. But yeah, Tampa's got to win that matchup. I'm sorry.
That would be scary. You can go at him, but you won't see me for weeks.
Oh my God. If Vegas wins the cup, nonetheless beats Tampa to do it, we're going to have to check in on Steve like every 15 minutes. Like he's going to, yeah, that would not be a fun time for Steve. But, you mentioned it, Steve, 5 of 7 years the Lightning have been at this point, the Final Four. There's teams who, Toronto haven't won a playoff series in 17 years. Columbus never been out of the second round. It's stuff that you try not to take for granted. I'm just, anytime they win a playoff series, it's fun. Anytime they're part of the Final Four, even if they don't make it to the Cup Finals, I think, it's cool to be there, and and know that your team is good. But you guys keep mentioning it. You're talking about the Chicagos, the Pittsburghs, the Kings of the league who have won multiple cups. There's one team that you don't mention in that statement is Boston. Boston won that cup in 2010, went back in 2013, lost to the Hawks, and went in 2019 and lost to the Blues. They've been there 3 times, and they have 1 cup, and you don't mention them in one of those dynasty teams.
Exactly, and they've been a dynasty technically in making the playoffs. Yeah,
they've been a wagon, but they can't get it done. So I think you guys make great points. That if you want to be remembered as one of those great teams, you have to cement your legacy and win that 2nd cup. Doesn't matter how far apart it is.
Who wins? Whoa, whoa.
Love that guy. It's if you want to be remembered as one of those great teams, one of those dynasty teams, you have to put your name on that cup twice. And it looks like they're motivated to do that. I don't think they care about legacy. I think they just want to do it again. I think they reveled in it. They enjoyed it. They know they're a good team. They know this is probably their best shot. They knew they had to get into the playoffs and get Kucherov back, get Stamkos healthy. Hedman was hurt. Don't forget that. He looks fantastic, even though he hasn't scored yet, which is a little not concerning, but it's a little surprising that he hasn't found the back of the net yet. But that just means
once he finds the net, people are fucked.
Oh, if Hedman gets hot, I'm not going to say anything, but look out.
Tyler Johnson's already found the net. And I said that Carolina Hurricanes are fucked if Tyler Johnson finds the net. He found the net. I'm telling you, next one, it's Hedman and Sergachev. Those guys, if Sergachev stops turning the puck over, I mean, good.
Sergachev does that move at the line, though.
All right, enough jacking the lightning off, okay?
Adam Fox is nominated for the finalist for the Norris. So,
yeah,
I think who wins it? Who wins it? Can you give it to? Who do you give it to?
I think Fox wins it.
Listen, I always made the joke, like Fox is better than Hedman. I texted on the chat, say I'd give it to fucking Hedman, dude. I don't care about, you guys are Lightning fan, I guess, but he didn't have as good of a year. So if you're looking at
give it to Fox, just give it to Fox and give the Vezina to Fleury, because the last year, our guys didn't win the awards and we won the cup. So give the awards to everyone else so they can be pissed.
Yeah, no. I think
Mr. Superstitious over here, yeah.
I think Vazzy and Hedman get the you guys are the best in your position, so we can't leave you off.
That's what I'm saying. I think that might happen, yeah.
So I think Fox wins it. Vazzy probably could win Vezina.
No, Vazzy was the best this year, for sure.
Vazzy's the best, period, so is Hedman. I hope Fleury wins it. He deserves it, man.
Yeah.
He's been in the league so long. He deserves that kind of recognition.
Yeah, it would help his Hall of Fame resume too. But I don't know. I don't know. It's going to be tough, really tight. But in the advanced stats, CJ sent over the picture. Adam Fox, he really did I don't understand the advanced stats, so I'm not going to make an argument off it. And I'm going to look into them because I'm actually interested. But Fox blew away Hedman in almost everything. So I looked at that and I was genuinely surprised myself. I was like, hey, kudos to you, Fox. You had a pretty damn good season. But I guess we got to finish up with this. The Islanders and Bruins. Tonight's game 6. The series might be over by the time you're listening to this on the pod. It probably will be, actually, because we're uploading on Thursday. But I don't know. I bet Islanders to win tonight because they're the underdog, and you'll win more if you bet the Islanders. So I bet them tonight. I just think, what's going against them and the reason they are the underdog is because this would be 3 games to win in a row, and that's pretty rare in the playoffs. But here's the thing. The last game at Nassau, physically, the Islanders dominated the Bruins. And I look at the last game, they beat them on the road. So I feel like we always count the Islanders out. Always. After last year at the end, we were all on the high emotionally of, hey, the Islanders aren't going anywhere. The Islanders aren't going anywhere. Then right before the playoffs this year, they slump. We're like, the Islanders aren't good. No Anders Lee. Who cares about their coaching, blah, blah, blah. And then look at them. They're about to go to the round before the Stanley Cup Finals again. And why? Physicality, coaching, defense, goaltending. All 4 is what the Islanders have. And so I think they're going to win this series. Adam, you said it, though. Whoever wins tonight, you think at least will win the series.
Yeah, I just think that the Islanders can't finish off Boston in their own barn. I think it's really tough to go back into Boston and win 2 in a row at that point. win back-to-back games in TD Garden.
Yeah.
I think that's tough to do. I think the Islanders have to close it out tonight. I was thinking about after they won game 5. How scary would this team be with Anders Lee?
Oh,
Don't
yeah,
forget,
that'd be
that
totally
guy tore his
different.
ACL. He's done for the year. How
Fuck 'em.
scary would this team be? It's fun to think about. Nonetheless, I think they're so structured defensively. I think they deserve to be here, but I still don't think they've been the better team. I think Boston's been the better team. I mean, the Islanders had 5 goals on 18 shots in game 5.
Jeez.
That's just not. I don't know if they're looking for the right inning, if they're just waiting for the right shot. I don't know if that's bad goaltending on Tuukka Rask, Swayman's part, whoever the fuck that guy is. But they're a good team. They know how to score. They know how to take care of business. I think they get it done tonight. I think they're too mature at this point. Going from a Final Four run last year, I think they're too mature at this point to let this get away from them on their home ice. So I think the Islanders clean it up tonight, and then we're going to get another Tampa Islanders rematch in the Final Four. And who would have thought that the Islanders were going to, I think a lot of people might have expected Tampa to be here. I don't think a lot of people expected the Islanders to come back and be one of the Final Four teams. So good for them. I like their chances tonight. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely huge for the Islanders to close this out tonight, because
Going back to Boston, like you said, having to win 3 on the road and in one series is hard, especially going into TD Garden. Not to say it's not doable. Nothing's impossible, but I think they have a great opportunity to close it out on home ice in the Coliseum. Listen, I think their structure has been really good this series. You look at game 1, they kind of got it handed to them a little bit, but they had just came off of, I want to say, who was the round before them? The Islanders. Who they play? Who they match up with?
Pittsburgh.
Oh, yeah.
Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
They went 6, I believe, right? 6 or 7, 6.
6.
Anyway, grinding series, waiting around. You kind of get a hand to in game 1, made some adjustments, and then from there on out, they've played really well, and I think they have the formula to win, to move on. And I think tonight you got to keep the same game plan, stay out of the box, go forward, and let the Bruins do all. Let them try to
beat them up, dude. They beat the Bruins up, man.
Yeah, and they have done a good job keeping their poise, the Islanders, that is, because now you got the Bruins kind of second guessing themselves, and they're taking penalties. Their coaches, speaking out against the refs and all this and that, and I think the Islanders have done the good job of not buying into what the Bruins want to do, and that's fall into their trap of let's get into scraps, get into scrums, take cheap penalties, and then put them on the power play. And then on the reverse side, the Islanders will let them take penalties, and they went 3 for 3 last game. So they're doing all the things they need to do to win the game, win the series, and in between the net too. It's Varlamov's played unreal. We saw him glimpses last year of him make their deep run, and he's been unreal. He makes the saves when he needs him to, and he's solid back there. So their structure is play close games, and they're doing that, keeping Pasternak off the score sheet as much as they can. Shut down the perfection line and you win. That's just the bottom line. You shut down their primary scoring, and that's how you beat this Bruins team. And if they can do it again tonight, they'll be well on their way, and would be a fun rematch, Tampa and New York.
And hey, what did I say? I'm not going to say it yet because it's not complete, but we kept talking about a few pods ago, the old guard of the NHL. Some of these franchises might have to hit the retool/rebuild button very soon. And the 3 teams that I mentioned critically were Boston, Pittsburgh, Washington. Pittsburgh, Washington after a round. Boston might not get past the second. Philly didn't even make the playoffs. So all these old teams, the theory's kind of persisting so far. So this offseason is going to be unlike a lot of others, because I guarantee you at least one of those franchises at the end of the year, they have to hit the reset button. It's just time. So really, this could be a lot of game-changing stuff in the NHL offseason as well. By the way, the NHL draft lottery took place. The Buffalo Sabres are getting the number 1 pick of the NHL draft. No, the Rangers did not luck out again and get the 1, or else the whole world would have exploded. But Rangers get 15, I think, and then the Lightning are probably – do you guys even have a first-round pick after all this? Yep. So there you go. Yeah, you don't need one. No sympathy there. So All right. This weekend, I'm going on a trip out of the state, so we won't have a strictly baseball this week, but we'll be back next week. And then, so that'll do it for this pod. This is on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. Look us up on YouTube at Strictly Sports Productions. Then you go into the playlist section. All 5 podcasts are organized in a row on the playlist section. You can follow us on Twitter at Strictly Sports P and on Facebook and Instagram at Strictly Sports Productions. So for Steve Cashin and Adam Kupferman, I am Jacob Brown, and we will see you next week.